Have you ever thought it's pretty weird with all those useful language learning methods online, there isn't any sign indicating that language learning has become easier or more people are mastering foreign languages? That's pretty weird. That doesn't make sense, right? And then I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. If you're only focusing on language learning methods, you are screwed. There's no way you can reach fluency fast. At least that's my opinion. Instead, you should be focusing on something else. But before that, let's first of all figure out why methods are overrated. So methods are basically a string of actions. When they're closely followed in an ideal situation, they can help us reach a goal, and it works pretty well when there are only a few things that can go wrong. That is not according to plan, like putting together Swedish furniture, which is pretty easy to follow. But life is complex, so is language learning. Haven't you heard? Here's an exception. Here's another exception. Language learning is all about exceptions. It can get complicated very, very quickly. Another thing about tactics is they are helpful and useless at the same time. They are helpful because it provides people a thing or two that they haven't seen before, which may or may not work. But they are also useless because nobody can really remember hundreds of rules and remember to obey them while applying them. There are just too many of them, and many of them don't even apply to us. So in that sense, these tips are like a faster route to a destination. They do not substitute a map, which allows us to see all the possible routes to the destination, nor does they substitute our ability to navigate the map, which is the most important skill I believe we should have. And also, knowing them does not make anybody an expert. So when you ask a person what works for you, very likely that person will be reading out what works exactly for them. It feels a lot like they're reading out their winning lottery ticket numbers. There's nothing wrong about that, and there's definitely a lot of things that we can learn from them. But the thing is, you can't just expect to take their exact circumstances and map it onto yours and expect success coming your way. It doesn't work this way. You as an individual is different. And smart people, they listen and read everybody, but they also ignore everybody. They make their own decisions at the end because they know if you survey enough people, eventually all the advice will cancel to zero. So really, you need to have your own point of view, have your own understanding, and think for yourself. When there is information coming your way, you have to think, it is true outside of the context that they applied it in. It is true to your situation. Do you want to apply it? You need to have answers for all of those questions. So eventually, you'll realize at the end, you probably have to discard most advice. But to do so, you also need to listen and read enough so that you can understand what to accept and what to reject. This video as well, if you find something to be untrue, you should probably set it aside, cut it out. If you find too many to be untrue, you should probably close the video. Essentially, don't forget, this is your learning. Anything that does not fit into your needs probably isn't the right method for you. Don't just pick up a method because somebody else says, well, it works out for me. If you only have a hammer in your hand, the whole world will become a nail. So as opposed to method, principles, which I believe is something that we should be focusing on, they can be thought of as a web of actions. They don't fail catastrophically just because one single place or few places get cut. They are resilient, whereas a method is not. That's why we need to focus on principles instead of methods or tactics. And you should think about learning a language like managing a basketball team. Its winning and losing does not really depend on one single player. When you have a team that's super strong with principles and strategies placed in the core, when there is one single player couldn't play, it doesn't really matter that much because that strong team, they can execute the plan, the strategy, and the principle beautifully. Any person on the court can possibly, adjust to any unexpected situation without any problem. That's the beauty about it, and that's why we need to focus on principles. And once principles are identified, and in my opinion, the most important principle when it comes to learning is probably gap seeking. So identify holes in your understanding and try everything that's in your power to your knowledge to fix it as soon as possible. That's pretty much the whole process of learning. If it's guided by curiosity it can be beautiful. And once principles are identified, all the tactics will come into place where they actually belong, and then we'll have the ability to know that when and how to mix and match and create our own system of tactics by using the principle to solve the problem that we are facing. That's a perfect learning method for us. It's actually not a method, but something that you actually creatively put together based on your understanding of the circumstance. With principles, your learning will become intuitive and automatic, obviating the need to follow lists or mechanical steps like a factory worker working on the assembly line. I hope you are not one of those factory workers. My name's Kevin. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you guys in the next one.